everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy 2023.
Yes, cheers.
Exciting to be back with Winephabet Street. We took a little break over the holidays because, well, you know, everybody's busy over the holidays. But we are back in 2023 with a great variety that I think everybody is going to be so excited to learn about. I know I am. And it is Hondarrabi Zuri. Did I say that correctly, Rick?
Very, very close.
All right. And if we are talking Spain and Spanish grades, who, of course, are we going to go to? But we are going to go to the Spanish wine guy, Rick Fisher. So welcome, Rick.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And happy 2023 to you.
Likewise.
Yes. And this is officially this will be my first full year of being a Spanish wine scholar.
Yay. Congrats again.
Yay. I was a nervous wreck, studied my butt off and passed with honors. And I'm so thrilled to have done that. And a very quick plug. The program is incredible. So everybody should check it out. The program was absolutely incredible. For me, Rick was the difference because I don't think I would have done anywhere near as well if I just was reading a book and doing things on my own. But to have those weekly sessions to be able to ask questions with you, Rick, was outrageous for me. So stellar program. I would stand up, but then you can see I'm wearing pajama bottoms.
And Rick and I were talking about having no pants on.
Oh, gotta love these things. Anyway, welcome everybody to Winephabet Street. I am your co-host, Lori. I am owner of Dracaena Wines and Paso Robles. I am a wine writer, wine educator, wine podcaster, all under Exploring the Wine Glass. And I am excited to be here and start 2023 with the letter H. And my co-host, Debbie.
I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm known as the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. I'm a wine writer, wine educator, an author of Tapping the Hudson Valley. I'm a certified specialist of wine location specialist in Port and Champagne, and a certified cherry wine specialist. And I'm partner in a restaurant in North Wildwood, New Jersey called Trio North Wildwood, and I could have left something out, but that's about it. All I can handle right now. Trust me.
And our special guest, Rick Fisher.
Hello. Thanks for having me on today. My name is Rick Fisher. I am the Spanish Programs Director for the Wine Scholar Guild. And you heard Lori talk about the Spanish Wine Scholar Program. I created the program. It's been taught been teaching it for about 3.5 years, and we've had more than 1,200 people go through the program, which is so fun for me. As a matter of fact, we're teaching it in Malaga in April this year.
Nice.
So I'm going to be teaching it for a week in Malaga, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But I am, as in 2021, I finished my diploma with WSET. I'm a certified educator for Rioja, Cava, and Sherry. Wine judge, wine writer, we all have a long list of stuff, but we, ultimately it comes down to talking about wine because that's what we love to do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And of course, drinking it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to go to Elmo here. And, Rick, if you can just mute until it's over, we've learned that eliminates the echo.
I don't know how you guys can sit there straight-faced and watch that thing.
And every time I think Debbie sees it new every time because the stupid program people keep changing the program I used to make it. So I have to keep find new ways to kind of do it. But
It's
isn't
so
Elmo
cute.
cute?
It's so cute, but I was trying not to giggle during the.
He's so cute. And you know, Elmo is all about education, and that's what Winephabet Street is all about. So
That's right.
it goes together.
Fun and education.
Yes. So I'm excited. I have my glass of Hondarrabi Zuri.
I have my glass.
And raise it, and I will say slancha and happy
Cheers.
2023. Mm.
Ugh, yum.
Oh, wow.
Yum, yum. Woo! Zippy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beat me to it. Definitely zippy. So, like, that is like a punch of citrus fruit in your mouth. I'm salivating.
I got a lot of salinity in mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So amazing. So, let's get into learning about this grape variety.
Sounds good.
All right, Deb, I think you're up first.
Oops, am I? I think you are.
Okay, we could
I
alternate.
think because we already covered my topic. Mine.
Well,
So
why don't I give you guys a little bit of a background as to where the grape comes from?
All right. Well, let me. Well, okay. Go ahead. We were gonna talk about the last time you were on. We talked about Zarello. And
with your background, but we already did that.
Okay. All right. We'll go.
So
why don't we start off? Why don't we start off with a little background of Zarello, and then we'll get into Hondarrabi Zuri, which is the last time you were with us.
A little background of Xarel-lo, the grape. Xarel-lo?
Like, is there any relationship to what we're going to talk about today?
Absolutely not.
All right. That's good to know.
With the exception of that it's a white grape.
Okay.
Yeah, Xarel-lo, is the native grape of the Penedès region in Catalonia. And even though they're actually not very close together. Yeah. You know, we've got to cross Aragon and cross Navarra and get to País Vasco and to get and up to the coast for here. So they are both light and white, refreshing grapes. So we'll kind of leave their similarities at that point. At that bit.
All right. Well, let's talk about Hondarrabi Zuri, which is actually the main grape variety, as you were saying, in País Vasco, which is also in Spain. So can you give us a little information about País Vasco, like where it is, what its climate like, and, you know, the autonomous region itself?
Yeah, so País Vasco, or Basque Country, as it's translated, is one of Spain's 17 autonomous regions. And it's situated on the northern coast of Spain. It's part of what they call green Spain because it's really rainy and it's really super green. So green Spain comes all the way from the western coast, from Galicia to Asturias, Cantabria, and then to País Vasco. País Vasco is actually located, part of it borders France, and then up in the north you have the Bay of Biscay. Okay, which is technically part of the Atlantic Ocean. Climatically, as I mentioned, it's very wet, and so it is definitely a maritime climate. Parts of the Basque Country actually have some of the highest rainfall in all of Spain. And País Vasco is actually 3 different provinces that make it up. But technically, Basque Country there are 7 provinces. And so 3 provinces in País Vasco, Navarra, which is the neighbor to the west, is also a Basque region. And then 3 provinces in southwestern France. In one of the regions, there is a Religai that's Basque. So there's a lot of overlap in grape and some of that kind of stuff when you're talking about Basque Country.
And it's kind of cool that it's in the 2 different countries.
Yeah, I never knew it was part in Spain.
And one of the fun things about about the Basque country too is there's a book that I highly recommend. It's called A Basque History of the World. And it talks about, I think the author, is Mark Kurlansky. And they talk about the Basque people, and they're, technically nobody knows the origins of their language. There's no connection to any written language that we have. And the people are actually believed to have been the first people to occupy Western Europe. And so, they're obviously, like other parts of Spain, like the Catalans or whatever, that, they're very proud and whatnot, but they're just it's a fascinating region, fascinating people. As we go through today and, we talk about the wines and the food, it's an amazing, amazing place. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Hondarrabi Zuri is also known as chocolate. Now, things that I read, chocolate was a DO. There was like 3 different DOs, different parts of chocolate. But why do they label it chocolate rather than just the name of the grape, Hondarrabi Zuri?
Yeah,
I think it confuses people.
It probably does, and it's a really good question, Debbie. In many ways, it's no different than a lot of people saying that Rioja is a grape, and so technically, Hondarrabi Zuri is not it's not the same as chocolate. Hondarrabi Zuri is the grape, chocolate is the wine style.
Okay.
And so it is technically a style. It is actually the name of 3 regions. So you've got Guitariaco Chacolina, Vizcaico Chacolina, and Arabaco Chacolina. Exactly.
I have the Gatelato.
And they are, they're always on the label, right, in some way, shape, or form. And so the name chocolate is actually really believed to have originated from a Basque word, echacoa, which basically means made at home. And so chocolate was a style of wine, or is a style of wine, that was generally made at home. Oh. And if you visit the Basque country, like places like, in particular, like San Sebastian on the northern coast, or Bilbao, or some of those kind of Guitaria, and you go into these taverns or these pinchos bars or whatever, a lot of times you see that they'll have these huge tanks and they'll actually pour the chocolate. So these were like made at home wines. They were, very artisan styled wines now, and they've gained tremendous popularity around the world, in particular in the U.S., because they're like, what we call a porch pounder.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Is there any differences on the 3 different types of chocolate?
Yeah, so, it really depends. So in the 2 coastal ones are Vizcaico and Guitariaco. They sit on the coast, so they tend to be very, very similar. They both have a lot more of the same influences. And then the 3rd province, so the 2 provinces sit at the top, and then the Alaba province sits below it. As a matter of fact, part of Rioja is in the Alaba province. And but the chocolate region is at the north part of that province, and so Arabaco Chacolina. There it tends to be a little more continental, so it's a little drier. The wines tend to be a little bit fuller, and so, but generally the wines are similarly influenced. The vast majority of wines that we see in the States are from the 2 northern ones. They're the 2 biggest producers by far. I think I've only seen a couple of wines from Arabaco in the U.S.
And you said that the name itself is thought to have been a Basque name. Is it native to País Vasco, or is it grown in other regions in Spain also?
Yeah, it's a really that's a very loaded question, Lori.
We're good at that.
In that Hondarrabi, and you'll see it pronounced and written in 2 different ways. You'll see it as Hondarrabi Zuri or Hondarrabi Zuri. Both are technically used, and Jancis Robinson uses Hondarrabi Zuri. So that's, we kind of use her as, the wine grapes as the Bible. But the grape itself is not even technically a grape. It was named after the town of Hondarribia, and it was the primary white grape that was grown in this area. And when they started to do a lot of research and DNA research on these grapes, Hondarrabi Zuri is actually Corbeau Blanc from southwestern France. And so there's, it's interesting because there's another grape in the Chocolate regions called Hondarrabi Zuri Zeradia, and that's Petit Corbeau. And so you've got these connections, but everybody refers to the grapes because even though they are DNA technically exactly the same grape, they still refer to them in Spain by their synonym as Hondarrabi Zuri. And there's also a red grape too, completely unrelated, named after the town.
And that is, I think Americans, we like our things nice and simple, right? We like Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, Chardonnay. I think we get confused very easily, and people shy away from it. And that's what, like Debbie was saying earlier, is like the concept that like this on the front label does not say Hondarrabi Zuri at all, right? Mm-hmm. It's got the Getorico Cioccolini, but then on
mine doesn't either. You have to read the back of the bottle,
and then the back says 100%, right? 100%.
But people don't know,
right?
So they see a Spanish white. What is this? It's Cioccolini.
Yeah,
if they can even pronounce it, because
exactly, and that's a great point.
And the pronunciation, and is it a region? Is it a grape? But that's what we're here for, to tell you all about it. And
that's one of the things that does make, this, Spain is, the Basque Country is not unique to anywhere else in the world, right, in doing in confusing people, with that. And so I think they've kind of rallied around the concept of Cioccolini because it differentiates them from, every other place and every other, even these grapes, Corbeau Blanc and Petit Corbeau in southwestern France, because those grapes, tend to be made more in the traditional white style. Whereas here, you guys have both tasted these now, that lighter, fresher, zippier, more saline, style of wine.
Is there a consortio for them?
There are three.
The individual, they each have their own.
Each province has their own Consejo Regulador. Exactly.
Okay. And so it's a very low alcohol. Mine is 11. Debbie, you said yours is 11.
11.5.
Okay.
Mine's 11 also.
Is that a regulation within?
No, not necessarily. I believe the minimum, they do have to meet at least 10.5, I believe.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I'm almost positive that's the case, but generally this, the style, the reason why it tends to be lower alcohol, there's a couple of reasons in the fact that, the grapes take, it's difficult to ripen the grapes in this really
in the climate, right?
In this climate. And so you tend to have grapes with higher acidity because, when they're picked. And then the way that they actually process it, they're processed generally in stainless steel. And then to get that effervescence in there, they generally stop. They actually close the fermentation tanks on the stainless steel right before fermentation is complete to help hold in that residual CO2.
Oh, wow.
And so some producers, I would say these are definitely like maybe producers we don't see bottled because they're not the high quality ones, will pump CO2 to give a little bit of that. But quality wines like the ones that we're drinking, it's part of the winemaking process where they're actually able to capture that final residual CO2 that gives you that kind of, effervescent, frizzy kind of notes.
Very cool.
So I was going to show before we go, and I was telling Debbie beforehand, and they brought a couple of props with me. And I always think these are really fun, especially if you're going to drink chocolate. So there are in the chocolate region, they use these little spouts, these little pourers, because what happens is chocolate, one of the things that happens with chocolate when you pour it, like if you're in a tavern in the Basque Country, they will open a spout and hit the glass like with the shooting wine, or they'll pour from a high their arm up high, because when the wine hits the glass, it helps to aerate it and creates more of those bubbles. And so what they've done is they've created these little spouts. Now this one's a little small for this one, so I'm gonna hold it. But generally what they do is when they pour like this. So it allows, so you can see that fizzy, and it kind of creates that that idea of when pouring. I was in the Basque Country last year at a producer, and we did the whole thing with, they opened the tank and you had a glass up next to it, and you hold your glass all the way out while there's still, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Now this isn't the region that has the special glass too, is it?
They do use, I should have brought one. I've got one in the kitchen. It looks more like it's like a highball glass. Okay. Round, and it's real thin glass, but it's just a round glass, and it has a wider base than like a traditional wine glass does. So when it's hitting the bottom, you might be thinking the other region is Ribeiro, which has those same glasses, but they're really short.
Oh, okay.
But in Chocolate, they're kind of a tall like a highball, and the way that they would drink them, which is really fun, is they would generally drink. They would drink something, and then they would pass it to somebody else, and they would turn the glass, and they would, so like 3 or 4 people are drinking off the same glass, but in a different spot. Right. They would leave a little bit left in the bottom of the glass, and the last person would take the glass and swirl it and throw it out, and that would clean the rim with the remaining wine, so that you could pour again and start over again.
And that was all pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Now there's straws. No.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Okay. All right. So, do you? Oh, Deb, I'm sorry. It's you again. I'm off tilt tonight. I'm sorry.
You are off tilt. Well, no, actually, it's you. But did we discuss the name of the grape?
Yes.
Where it came from? Okay, that's where we went off on tangents.
I'm sorry. I'm so easy to take somebody down a rabbit hole. So you have to just kind of pull it back out again.
The rabbit holes are awesome. I'm big with the squirrels. Squirrels.
Who's the daddy? Who are the parents? Do we know? Do we know who the parents of these grapes are? Do they have any type of origin, or?
I actually tried to research that, and of course I was looking for Corbeau Blanc, and I couldn't find anything that that mentioned DNA. I mean, Jancis has nothing about it. I mean, researching it, I couldn't find a damn.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Which is crazy. Now, if you're looking at, and I know we talked a little bit at the beginning about the red grape, Hondarrabi Belza, and Belza means Zuri. So Zuri means white in the Basque language. And so Hondarribia was the town, Zuri is white, and then the same for Hondarribia, and then Belza is red in the Basque language. And so that is a little different. We do know one of the parents, and that is Cabernet Franc of Hondarrabi Belza. And as a huge fan of Cabernet Franc, it's really fun. And I actually had a bottle to show you guys. This is it's a little hard because of but you can. And so this is a producer, Doña Gorondona, and they do, this is 100% Hondarrabi Belza. And you do get those herbal, Cab Franc notes. They're really fun, super fun wines.
Oh.
And I highly encourage, sometimes this is where the rabbit hole becomes a benefit, where you start hunting for these kinds of things. And it's really, but that, Cab Franc is a parent to so many grapes.
He did get around.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. But it's a really, it's fun to be able to see that influence, because, we have we have borders now, but what were borders,
Right.
The Pyrenees Mountains, you got over the Pyrenees and you were somewhere else, it wasn't technically France and Spain, or maybe it was at some point, but, and so it's fun to see that with those grapes. But to the white grapes, nah.
Wow. Do we see it anyplace else? Can we get this in the United States? Not the wine, the grapes.
I have not. I'm trying to think, because being in California, there's always somebody trying to do something different.
Right.
And I'm seeing producers now growing Mencia, growing Godello, growing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not for anything, but just talking about where this grape grows. I'm wondering, and I'm going to bring this up to some people in the Hudson Valley. I wonder if this will grow well in the Hudson Valley with the proximity to the Atlantic Ocean and the water. And
yeah, if you have that really strong maritime climate,
yeah,
and I think
or Long Island.
I think it's probably a good call, Debbie, because if you look at, the parts of the Basque Country get snow.
Well, Albarino grows really well in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
Matt from Benmaro or Fjord grows in Albarino, and it's really good. And I'm picky. I'm very critical.
I'll have to try that, because I really, one of the things that I love to do is to see Spanish grapes being grown in the U.S. and
I'll send you a bottle. I might have a bottle, and he has it sparkling, but it's not released. But I have a bottle of that.
Okay.
But I'll get with him and
That'd be cool. But it's fun. But to your point, Lori, I haven't seen this grape planted anywhere in the U.S. That doesn't mean somebody's doesn't have an acre or a half an acre, hidden somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody is playing with this name. Yeah. That's so cool. All right. So in general, like we talked about what we tasted a little bit, we'll go a little further into it, but like Zippy comes to mind, the citrus, the salinity. Or is that, you talked a little bit about the two different DOs that are up more north, and then the one that's out in the continental. But if you had to describe this to somebody who has never tasted it before, what would you say would be a general characteristic that they can expect? And is there potentially a grape variety they're more familiar with that might be, it's, if you like this, you might like Hondarrabi Zuri?
That's a great question. So first off, easily enough, and you can, as soon as you taste it, you get, it's crisp, it's refreshing, it's high acid. It is like, teeth gnawing acidity, and I'm drinking a Rosado, which is 50% Zuri and 50% Belza. But even here, I still get the floral. There's floral notes. Generally in the ones you guys have will be white flowers. There are notes of citrus and saline in particular, because them both being so close to, a lot of the vineyards, basically are to the edge of the cliffs where the Bay of Biscay is. I remember the producer that I visited, we walked through their vineyards, and you just hear that, you could hear the waves crashing, and these grapes these vines are sitting right there at the edge. But those, you get those, they're really super mineral driven, the white and the rosé both. because they're both made the same way. But in a great, I'm sorry, and then something that I would say probably like a really lighter styled Chenin Blanc.
Okay.
Maybe because of that really refreshing acidity and the minerality. Or even if you're staying in Spain, I would go to the other coast and I'd go to Albarino. You know, I mean, I think that because of those, you get those saline notes. Mm-hmm. Those tend to be a little fuller body than these. Obviously, these are like super light.
Very light.
Which is why we were talking earlier that, I mean, this is like a bottle of water that's just waiting to be consumed.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's very refreshing, especially, I mean, here we are in the middle of winter, but on a hot summer day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's a great pool wine too. So,
yeah.
You know, we always have, I always have a 5 or 6 bottles of chocolate, especially springtime. Have you got a camera going on in here or what? But I mean, it's always because it's such a great wine, and it's super light. You don't feel, it doesn't fill you up. It doesn't feel, I don't know. There's just something about it that's so unique to any wine in the world that, so.
I kind of correlated to, although I don't know how common this is either, but a prettier pick pool.
Yeah, okay. I can see that.
I can see that too.
Yeah.
Because to me, I mean, and I love pick pool, but to me, pick pool is very one-dimensional. It's got the acid, it's light, it's that citrusy is in there, but this is a more feminine version. It's got the acidity in it, but it is zippy, but it's not that lip stinger that pick pool is. And it's just the white flowers that are in here, and the more salinity to me. It makes me think of a prettier, a more, sexy pick pool.
Yeah. I think chocolate would gladly don the term sexy. So,
awesome. So why don't you tell us about what you are tasting? Because you have the two, and are they married together frequently?
For Rosado, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and this particular producer is so this is Amos Toy. I mean, really, truly one of the country's and one of the region's best chocolate producers. This is their Rosado, and then this is their white. This one's 100% Hondarrabi Zuri, and then as I mentioned before, this is a 50-50 with the red grape and Hondarrabi Zuri. And everything it's farmed organically. They're using indigenous yeast in the fermentation process, and they hand harvest all the grapes. I mean, and you kind of have to this is from Guatayaco, so on the coast, and these vineyards that grow on the coast, they generally grow in a pergola system. Okay. But not the same pergola that you tend to see in Rías Baixas, where in Rías Baixas you see these pillars and these wires that go across mm-hmm. the top. And the way that these pergolas are is they're kind of more like this. And so they grow up and the grapes hang from the pergola here. Oh. And that's really important because of the high amount of moisture. It helps to keep the airflow going so the grapes don't get mildewed and those types of things. And so that's why, I mean, you everything has to be hand harvested. You just can't mechanically pick those kinds of grapes. And because you do tend to have varying levels of ripeness as well, because of the unique, climate that it's in. So, but this one is actually, the grapes are actually they're blended, they're co-fermented together. which is really interesting because I mean technically that would make it a clarete, co-macerated and co-fermented, but yeah. So I mean, for me, that it's in this one you do get a little bit of those kind of like strawberry notes, because of the Belza that's part of that.
It's incredible to like how they do that, like just the concept. So first of all, I mean, they can't like co-fermenting to me, like it makes more sense when you're doing like a field blend type thing. You're just taking everything, but these have to ripen at different times. So
Yeah.
are they starting the fermentation of the Zuri and then adding
I mean,
in
and to be
is it
honest,
like a 50-50 mix blend?
it is a 50-50 man. It is 50-50, and they just put all the grapes in together. And to be honest, I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't know how far apart. I'm trying to think because this is a later. It's just kind of it's a late budding and a mid ripening grape.
Oh, okay.
So, and Cab Franc
Is earlier.
is a little earlier. And so Belts is going to be, should be similar in that regard. So they may actually pick them both around the same time period. If not, they may actually just keep them in a cooler. But but it's not going to be that long, that much of a difference. I saw that there was a question up here from Karen about what months do they normally harvest?
Oh, there you go.
And so, I mean, because it is so cold, I mean, you're looking at later harvest. So you're looking at probably in the October, September, late September to October, especially in the coastal areas. If you're in the Atabaco area where it's more continental, it's a little warmer, then they're going to be harvesting a little sooner. But generally, I mean, they're definitely because and the grapes they're like the Zuri, they're super small berries too. So I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I'm always amazed because viticulture is so foreign to me, even though I've studied parts of it. I'm always amazed at how they get everything just right. When you've got a vineyard that has different influences and all these kinds of things. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they're also doing separate passes. So maybe they're harvesting.
They could be
the Zuri for a white at one time, maybe leaving it on stem a little bit longer if they're going to make the rosato, and then they're harvesting the Belza maybe a little bit earlier for the rosato, and then so it could also be done through multiple passes. So.
Absolutely. No, it absolutely could. And I will say one of the things too about, the Belza that I was telling you about, because I've had, Amos Choi also makes a 100% Belza in the same, and it's in the Riesling bottle as well. It's the same bottle. And, but it's a dark bottle and they still have that characteristic acid, of the region. So, because Cabernet Franc in other parts of the world, when it's going to ripen quite fully, whereas here, you still capture some of that acid from the grapes in the harvest.
Very cool. I'm all happy to learn something else about Cabernet Franc that,
I know you are. You're the Cab Franc queen.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
I've got a goddess and I've got a queen. So
there you go. Hey.
Thank you.
So, Rick, what is the relationship between Hondarrabi Zuri and their Cruchin, the Corbu Blanc, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing them correctly, and Noah, and Noah found in the south of France? Is there any type of relationship or?
I think I would say with just an overall, yes, they're all related in some way, shape, or form, whether they're synonyms of each other, which is generally more the case. You've got, as I mentioned before, you've got Hondarrabi Zuri, which is DNA with genetically the same as Corbeau Blanc. You've got Hondarrabi, Zuri, Zeradia, which is genetically the same as Petit Corbeau. But Hondarrabi Zuri itself is also the synonym for the grape Crochin, as well as the American hybrid Noah. And there's a genetic connection to that as well.
So Noah is an American hybrid?
It's an American hybrid, yes.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah, and so
sounds pretty American, Noah. We'll just
yeah, no, it does. It's like we're so creative when we come up with the names. And so I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I'm totally speculating at this point, but I mean, who knows? It could be one of the grapevines that went with phylloxera. That who knows? For grafting, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to know how all these grapes get. I'm fascinated by the genetics of grapes. And they're always learning, we're always learning something new about them, but it's a long answer to say I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, so many
and
grapes,
I don't know that anybody does at this point.
Yeah.
There's just so many grapes that have, I mean, literally Cab Franc I think has 20 synonyms, of where, depending on where you are, what it's called. And
right.
That's one of the problems in the world of wine, is that people think because, I'm getting this, and it ends up being the same grape variety. They're just calling it different. And I've read quite a bit that people, how many synonyms there are, but you can't get rid of them. Yeah, I mean, like Tempranillo, how many names does Tempranillo have just within?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And a lot of people only know that grape by its synonym.
Right.
They don't know it any other way. And so, I mean, that's where the struggle, is as well. But, fortunately the longer we go, and, I've been dying for a new edition of wine grapes, but I haven't seen anything on it yet because, there's got to be a gazillion updates to that
since that last one. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to geek out a little bit. So we know it's a maritime climate, but is there a specific like soil that they like, or, you talked about potential for mildew. What are the main things that a winemaker needs to pay attention to? And I don't know if you could answer this question or not, but like, there's usually some grapes are crazy in the vineyard and easy in the winery, and others are kind of crazy in the winery and easy in the vineyard. Is that?
Yeah. So yes, they grow in soil. Sorry.
That was good.
But generally, I mean, the different provinces have some similarities. You tend to see a lot of limestone subsoils, but you do see a lot of clay as well, and as well as you see some alluvial soils as well. And so the soils for the grapes tend to be very high in organic content. And, and I think one of if I was going to say, if there were some struggles in the vineyard, it would be the climate and having, and I mean, even if these grapes are growing on the parrals or the pergolas, I mean, you still have a lot of rainfall, and so the, clay is not tends to hold water as well. I mean, so you have to be very, very careful there. And I mean, now they do get, some hours of sunshine and whatnot during the day. And so generally it's not an issue, especially the way the grapes are growing. They're not growing close to the ground. They're not, they're probably at about 5 or 6 feet above the ground. And so they definitely have a lot of airflow going through. The grapes are high yielding And so they're at this point, I don't know that they do any green harvesting or anything like that. I haven't heard of it because the yields tend to be fairly generous in the regulations. And really, I mean, you're not producing a wine that needs to have low yields because it's going to age for 5 years and it's going to sit in the bottle for 20. You're making a wine from, grapes you just picked, and you're putting them in the bottle, and they're in somebody's glass within a year. Yeah. And so generally, these are, now there are exceptions to that rule, of course, but generally, high yielding is good because they can produce more of this, because the Chocolate has become so popular. In Basque Country, it's always been popular, but not, and been around the world, it's just gaining in popularity at that point. So other than that, I think, I would say those are probably the biggest potential issues working in the vineyard. In the winery, from my understanding, the producer that I visited last year, it's a fairly easy grape to work with. It's not oxidative. It's not reductive. It's, I almost feel like it's like, going to the store and grabbing some green grapes in the bag and in a stainless steel tank. I know it's not that easy. So if any chocolate producers ever watch this, please.
That was a joke.
But it tends to be a fairly baseline process. And again, you're fermenting, you're going through alcoholic fermentation, and then you are capping the stainless steel tank, keeping the residual CO2, and then you bottle it.
So pretty much it doesn't see any oak or anything. Does it spend time on its lees? It's fermented in tanks and then to the bottle?
Yeah, so and that's a really good question, because it's one of the things that, a lot of regions traditionally were just, super light, and this, you kind of go through this with Albarino, where it's like now you see all these crazy things coming out of Ria Spicious. And the same thing is true here. 99% is going to be this style that we're drinking. But there are producers that are doing lees aging. There are producers that are toying with oak, and I would say generally what you're going to see in those, you're looking more like Fudras or large format barrels. Okay. Small barrels will not be kind to this kind of a wine. But I have, over the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of lucky. I'm obsessed when it comes to finding new and different things, and so I collect, and sometimes I actually open. But this is from that producer that does the red, Doña Gorondona. It's called Iri, I-R-I. And this is 100% Hondarrabi Zuri that's aged 5 months on the lees. Okay. And it does not have that effervescence. So it's actually more of that white wine process. Okay. That you go through. And this is actually from Vizcaico, which actually has had a tremendous amount of changes in the last couple of years. But it's free run juice, and absolutely fantastic. You think we'll see
anything in a cement tank?
I would not be surprised at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Cement tanks actually, a lot of producers like cement for fermentation because it's neutral. Okay. And so I would not be surprised even to see amphora in some of these kinds of things. But I think that you're seeing these regions, they've kind of mastered this style now, and now they're making their money on this style, but it gives them the ability to now try and work with some other types of styles.
So you had said that it's real. And it obviously is meant to be drunk young. Mine is a 2021, so it's meant to be drunk young. But with do the DOs have the regulation? So if they're going to play with the lees, if they're going to play with the barrels or the foudres and stuff, does the DO would they still be able to label that?
Yeah. So that's actually a really good question and a perfect segue to so this particular one I was talking about, the Edie from Vizcaico Chacolina. In 2020, the region overhauled their regulations, and this is only in Vizcaico at this point. And so at the time, the only red grape, for example, that was authorized was Belza. Now Cabernet Franc and Pinot Noir are both authorized.
Wow.
And it makes sense, especially with, I mean, Pinot not so much, but Cab Franc for sure, because it's a parent grape, you know. Right. But the other thing that they did, and this wine actually falls into that category now, is they have a new labeling system called Berziac Chocolat, and that's for wines that are aged on the lees for 5 months or longer. So it's now part of the regulations. They also have additional styles that they've authorized. So wines made in amphora, wines made via carbonic maceration. They've got sparkling wines. They've got late harvest. And so you're seeing, obviously, there are producers doing this in the regions because now there are enough of them that the regulations are changing to accommodate them to be able to label with the actual denomination of origin versus just labeling as Vino de España.
Right.
That's a table wine.
Because I don't think you can hold. I just don't think you can hold back winemakers. You know, like they get it. There's regulations for a specific DO, but they're going to experiment, and if they start to experiment and it becomes a bigger thing, the DO's got to adapt to allow, right? That you want to grow the DO, right? And
I think that's, I mean, Vizcaico Chacolina, you know, is really on the forefront of that in this part of Spain. I would not be surprised to see Guitarriaco follow suit very soon. Guitarriaco was the first DO in the Basque Country, and Vizcaico was the second. And so I would not be surprised to see that happening as well.
So is this widely distributed in the States? Because where I am in the land of misfits down here in South Jersey these days, I would never be able to find it. I mean, mine came via my UPS driver. So, I mean, and I go into the liquor store a lot looking for stuff. And I mean, is it widely distributed? Because a lot of people that are listening to this, where can they, you know?
Yeah. So when you go to the liquor store, Debbie, you have to move past the Scotch aisle.
I don't drink Scotch.
I don't either. It was just the first thing that came to my mind.
Vodka, but not Scotch.
I'm a gin guy. So I mean, it is. I mean, in the bigger markets, I mean, it's absolutely available. New York, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, San Francisco, wherever, you know. It is a little more hit and miss in the smaller markets. I mean, a lot of like wine bars, it's a really, especially in the summertime, you'll probably see a lot more of it like by the glass because it is such a great summer wine. I mean, but for me, I would say and I would encourage everybody, and if you go and you find some, don't just buy one bottle.
No, buy half a case or a case.
You will wish you had more.
Absolutely.
And so,
it's not terribly expensive.
No, generally in the $15 to $20 for a nice. I think both of these were in the 19 to 20 range.
Okay, mine was under 15.
Yeah, and if you're going for like some of the more esoteric ones, like the red or something, this is probably, I think, was 22 or 23.
That's not bad.
And then the Edie, I think, was closer to 30. Okay. This is that Lee's age, whatever. Bad. But I would look at Wine Searcher. I mean, I live on Wine Searcher, so wine-searcher.com, and just type in chocolate. I mean, you will find.
And it's spelled T-X-A-K-O-L-I.
Exactly. And that's the Basque language where T's and X's live next to each other on a regular basis. So
I think this is a Somm geek alert. I think that if you have a good Somm in a restaurant, you're gonna find a chocolate on the menu, because it's something that they can geek out over, and something that I think is enjoyable by a wine newbie or somebody who is experienced with wine. It's just across the board a very appealing style of wine.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think, you know, I would tell you, if you go into a restaurant and you see it on the glass and the bottle, I would just buy the bottle, to be honest with you. Seriously, because I mean, by the time you've gone through a couple glasses, you're like, doggone it, I wish I would have just bought the whole bottle, because it's such a crowd pleaser. It's super easy. In
the summer, this will go great. All kinds of seafood, white fishes, clams, shrimp. You know, I don't do oysters, I don't know if it has. Yeah, it probably would do well with oysters.
It's got that salinity.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, they always talk about, you know, where the wines are made and where the vines grow, and you're right on the coast. And if you know, and you go into Basque Country and you go into these tavernas, and you know, you see the pinchos, which are Basque tapas. So never go to a Basque restaurant and ask for tapas.
Oh, okay.
They're pinchos, Pintx. Here we go again. O. And so, but they're basically, what they are is it's like a tapa that's put on a piece of bread with a toothpick in it. And the way that they would do it is you would pick a bunch of pinchos. They would count your toothpicks at the end, and they would charge you based on the number of toothpicks that you had. And chocolate is the drink in these places. So they go with the seafoods, like if you're looking like a crab salad, or you know, like with the mayonnaise and vegetables, like peppers and those kinds of things. Fried seafood is as well.
I had this past weekend crab ragoon grilled cheese.
Oof.
This would have been awesome with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so I mean, it's a very versatile. I mean, it's not a red meat kind of a wine.
No, definitely.
Now the red, yes, because it's a lighter, fresher style. You could totally do that, but not. But I mean, it is so versatile, especially when it comes to the sea. And if you don't eat seafood, you know, like chicken, or even just salads or rice dishes, or, you know, vegetables, those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, doing a little reading on it, it said that chocolate was actually used for trading purposes. What are we trading to get this great wine?
So you know, it's funny because the chocolate actually goes back. I think I'm trying to think. The first writings were back in the 10th century of the wine, and I mean, wine has been used for trade for a long time. The Dutch, the English, were always trading, you know, wine for whether it was wool or whatever. And there was something I wanted to read you guys because it was so fun when I read it. And it was back in, and this has to do with trade, but it has to do with how important this wine has been historically. Back in 1397, during the general meeting of the Gipuzkoa Guild, so this is Guitarriaco. Okay, they're all the same. The first bylaws of the province were approved, and item 18 threatened anyone who destroyed the vines with the death penalty.
Yes,
that's some serious stuff there.
Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome. Maybe Maybe
touch
everybody
the
who keeps
vines.
ripping up the vines to plant them to Cab Sauv should be following
or
under that.
Chardonnay,
Or
Don't
Chardonnay,
touch
right?
the vines.
which incidentally is approved in the region, but Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc have been recently approved, but nobody's, I don't even know why they do those things, because I mean the Riesling is the only international grape that I really see that has a home in this area, and you'll see, a lot of times you'll see Hondarrabi Zuri blended with Zeradia. There's another grape called Ischiriota, which is Grossmanseng from France, and then and Riesling, and you will sometimes see those minor players in a blend. But generally, I mean, it goes to show you. I mean, it really could very well tie back to your question on trade, Lori, in that in the 14th century, people were threatened with death to pull vines up. What is it? I mean, it couldn't have been just a local consumption thing,
Right.
It had to be that it was agriculturally significant in the region for survival.
Right. That is, I love that. I do.
Item 18.
Item
remember,
18.
Item 18.
Item 18.
Don't touch the grapes.
Oh my God.
Off with your head.
Yeah.
And I mean, Deb, you guys kind of started it, but what else?
With the food.
What else are your food?
Yeah.
For people like me.
You know what, Lori? People like you, the vegetable, like fried rice with vegetables. I can see like eggplant rollatini.
Okay.
Do you not eat seafood, Lori?
No.
Okay.
Well, Lori's got a very limited palate.
It's okay. I mean, she lives in Fresno. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but that is also.
But anything
the
vegetable wise,
cornucopia.
this would go broccoli salad, quinoa, anything like quinoa, rice, orzo salad with lemon in it. That would be awesome.
Yeah, see, I got to pull out that lemon in something. Like,
I
Yeah.
I think that's a great. I mean, a lot of times I will do just like pasta with some tomatoes and some basil and a little squeeze of lemon and extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
But
I would say this is definitely the more. It's a seafood and vegetable wine.
It very much is, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I mean, like a rice paella, or a rice paella with vegetables.
Yeah.
Would be spectacular. Because you do have having the texture of the rice, that kind of fullness of the rice with the really super light chocolatey. I think it's a great combo as well.
I'm wondering about because of the acidity and stuff. I'm thinking like a risotto with some fresh shaved Parmesan. I don't know where, I think that would go well. That would
because you got the saltiness of the Parmigiano Reggiano,
right?
Yeah.
And
you want some of Chef Gus's risotto? That would go well with it.
Yeah. So that's what my mind went to.
And that's great because not everybody eats seafood. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
You can't assume that,
And it's a good vegetarian wine.
Yep. Absolutely. And I mean, you walk into a Pincho's bar, I mean, you're going to see a lot of seafood, trust me, but you're going to see a lot of vegetable. Like, I mean, even stuff like a tortilla, the Spanish tortilla, the egg
right.
and potato omelet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's perfect. It's it's a great appetizer or whatever. And I mean, it's beautiful.
Yep. That's what we made, Rick. That's what we made to celebrate me passing the Spanish wine scholar. A friend of ours bought me a bottle before I knew I passed. Bought me a bottle of Spanish Tempranillo, and so Mike made me the Spanish tortilla, and that's what we sat down and we celebrated. We celebrated with that.
I love it. Hey. Anything Spanish works for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, and you have, this can be made also, it's kind of a frizzante, but Can it be in an actual sparkling also?
Yes, it can. I told you I came with props.
He has a sparkling, yes.
Yeah, this is the Hidusta. This is Brut Natur.
Okay.
And this one is from Getariaku, Chacolina as well. 100%, Hondarrabi Zuri. And it's traditional method. So just like cava, champagne, whatever. And aged on the lees for 14 months.
Wow.
So like a traditional cava, for example, is 9 months.
Can we find that in the States?
Yeah, I got that here. I got that. I think I got this from K&L.
Okay.
Deb is going to be on the computer later.
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. I mean, you know, just from tasting these wines too, that they're really the acidity and they're really fresh. But it had a really nice creamy mousse to it. It was aged for 14 months on the lees. It's all disgorged manually as well. And so, I mean, you don't see. Amos Toy actually does make sparkling as well. I've seen they make the white and a rosado of sparkling, both available in the U.S. too. So there's definitely they're definitely. I mean, they're very limited. It's like trying to get a sparkling wine from the Canary Islands, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, they do. They make them, and they're, you know, it's part of these regulations that have been evolving over time, that they're authorized styles as well to be able to carry the label of the appellation.
And since they're traditional, Debbie and I can saber them.
That's right.
Yes.
Since they're traditional method.
It is saberable.
It is saberable. That's very important to Debbie and I.
Yes. It's our addiction.
Yeah.
I love it though.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. You'll never forget your first saber.
No. And I've saved all the tops. And at the restaurant this year, I had 2 little Christmas trees, and that's what I used as ornaments.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Hopefully nobody touched them and cut their hands.
Nobody did. Yeah. I actually did cut my hands putting it up. But we can go into that.
No,
Super glue works good.
That's funny.
Well, we are actually over an hour, but
yes,
is there anything we've missed that we need to let our listeners or viewers know about Hondarrabi Zuri or País Vasco?
I mean, to be honest, I mean, this is just one of those wines that, I mean, they're amazing, and when you drink them at home, they're even better when you drink them in the Basque Country, in the setting. And if anybody's going to Spain, you have to put San Sebastian on your to-do list. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world for me. But I mean, outside of, I mean, the amount of information, like, we've covered a lot in this hour, and I would just say go online and find some of these wines and just enjoy. And if you want to learn more about this or about anything Spanish, then come take the Spanish Wine Scholar course.
How can they find you on that?
So a couple different ways. So winescholarguild.org is our site where we have all of our information. You can reach me on Instagram at the Spanish Wine Guy, and I'm happy to get information. We have a new class, actually. The class that Lori took over a year ago starts January 17th. So the next instructor-led course starts January 17th. Reach out to me. I'll make sure you get all the info quickly so we can get a manual sent out to you. I mean, you know, Lori's known me for a while when it comes to, and she's listened to me talk on this, and I can never talk enough about Spain. I absolutely love it. I think it's the best country in the world. And, you know, I know you guys have to cover other grapes, but thank you for finding
all night and talk to you about Spanish wine.
Yeah.
I love
because
it.
I'm a huge fan.
I love it. Yeah. But yeah, no, at the Spanish Wine Guy on Instagram or winescholarguild.org, and we can get you any information that you want for that.
And I just want to say, we haven't gotten, or I didn't get any compensation. Debbie did the sherry specialist thing. Yeah. There was no compensation for that. So this is just our true, opinion of it. It was not an easy class.
It's not meant to be.
Class wasn't easy either.
It was not an easy class, and it really made me think and study. And that was what I thought was cool, was how you took, we went across the country and went through each of the autonomous regions. But the bad thing is, in a lot of education, it's like, okay, here's Rías Baixas. Yeah. Okay, here's País Vasco. Yeah. And there's no connection between them. And that's not the way the Spanish Wine Scholar program was set up. We traveled the country with a connection throughout, which for somebody like me, who, it makes it a lot easier. And it's not something like I've memorized it for the test and I forgot it. I actually understand stuff. Not to say I don't have to go back to the book and look things up.
We all do, trust me. No, we all do, trust me. But that's very kind, Lori. I appreciate it. And we spend a lot of time creating these courses, and to your point, anything that's worthwhile is not easy. So, and it's great. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have a course starting in Malaga in the middle of April. We still have a few seats available for that, but I'm super excited. It's 5 days in
Can I just
Spain.
Go with you to visit Malaga?
We're going to visit the sherry region one day, and then we're going to do a half day in one of the subzones in Malaga. We'll be tasting probably 70 or 80 or more wines from around Spain over the course of the 5 days that we're doing the course. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But if you can't do that, obviously, come and join us online. We do also have an independent study.
We'll just follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, seriously, it's a lot easier that way. Because I always talk about upcoming classes in particular, plus fun little gems that I find. And it's almost always, and they're always available in the U.S. because that's where I find them. So.
Oh, that's good. And just for people for next month, date will be determined because I have some travel plans and we'll have to work it out. Is Isabella, and which is
no clue what that is.
It isn't. It's. I know it's grown in New York, so I'm going to seek out somebody for that.
I will not be volunteering for that one.
No. I have people in mind, so stay tuned. Sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know.
And I just want to say thank you again, Rick. You are so generous with your time and your knowledge, and whenever I think of a Spanish grape, I know I can come to you, and you have the answers for me or whatever. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the wine with us, the grape variety and the region. And
I have to say, I love sitting here and talking to you about all these Spanish grapes because it's just, we can go on for hours.
No, we absolutely could. And anybody that knows me knows that that's true. So it's good that you have time periods that you have to walk.
Yes, and thank you, because we are well over our time period.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. Thank you to everybody who joined.
Salud.
Salud. Lancha.